This is another podcast from Alpha Business Media. Imagine this picture. A country's brightest, its young talent, the people you need to build, the future doctors, engineers, tech folks, just leaving on a massive scale.
Yeah, it's what people call brain drain or skills drain.
Exactly. And it seems to be hitting Nepal really hard right now. It's frankly a concerning image, and it's what we're diving into today, thanks to some source materials a listener sent us.
That's right. We've got some really interesting data here, articles, reports, official numbers that paint a stark picture of this exodus of young, skilled Nepalese. It's not just anecdotal. The figures are quite something.
So our goal here in this deep dive is to really get under the skin of what's going on. We want to understand, the scale of it all and the complex reasons why, the push factors from Nepal, the pull from elsewhere, then look at the impact, the real effects on key areas like healthcare or IT.
And finally, what's being done or talked about, right? Solutions from companies, from the government.
Exactly. I'll kind of walk us through the main points and maybe some surprising details from these sources.
And I'll try to connect those dots, give some perspective on why it matters, what the bigger picture looks like. These materials definitely give us a lot to chew on regarding Nepal's talent challenge.
Okay, let's get straight into those numbers then, because honestly, they're pretty jaw-dropping. What's the overall snapshot of people leaving?
It's significant, really significant. The official stats for 2024 show 1.674 million departures. Now, put that against Nepal's total population of around 30.8 million.
Wow, okay, so what percentage is that roughly?
You're looking at over 5% of the entire population leaving in just 1 year. That kind of rate. Well, it's extremely high globally.
5% in a single year. That's a huge movement. And the sources say it's not all for the same reason, right? Different types of migration.
Exactly. It breaks down. The biggest piece is labor migration, people leaving for work.
Right.
In 2024, that was over 856,000 people. Mostly men, but nearly 100,000 women too, which is notable.
And where are they going? Is it still the usual places like the Gulf or Malaysia?
Well, yes, those are still major destinations, but what's really interesting in these sources is the surge towards Europe.
Europe, really?
Yeah. Places like Romania, Croatia, Malta, Cyprus, Portugal, they're becoming much more popular for work. The data shows like a 46% jump year on year in European work permits in early FY 24-25. Over 34,000 permits.
46% increase. That's huge.
It is. And Romania was the leader there, accounting for more than half of those permits. So it's a real shift, a diversification of destinations.
That's fascinating. Okay, so labor is one stream. What about students? We hear a lot about young people leaving to study.
That's the next big one. Huge numbers. Over 119,000 students left in 2024. And maybe even more telling is the number who got no objection certificates, NOCs.
Yes, the permits needed to study abroad.
Exactly. It shows clear intent. And that number topped 112,000 in FY 23-24.
And where are the students heading mostly?
Japan is incredibly popular. Over 45,000 Nepalese students there in 2023. Australia is big too, the US, Canada, and the UK.
The UK has seen growth, right?
Yeah, significant growth. Over 12,000 UK student visas in 2024. The US had over 15,000 students a couple of years back. It just shows this massive pull towards international education.
So we've got work, study, and then there's this third category the sources highlight as particularly concerning: people leaving permanently.
Yes, permanent residents, and they flag this for a very good reason. Nearly 67,000 people left for PR in 2024.
And what's striking about that group?
It's almost an even split between men and women, which suggests, maybe entire families are immigrating or perhaps more women are actively seeking these permanent opportunities independently.
Why is that permanent move seen as such a red flag?
Because it signals something deeper, right? It suggests a real lack of faith in the long-term prospects within Nepal. It's not just about a temporary job or getting a degree. It's a decision that the system back home, well, it isn't going to offer the stability, the opportunity, the quality of life they're looking for.
It's like a vote of no confidence.
Fundamentally, yes. And the sources really stress who is leaving. It's disproportionately the young people.
What does that mean for Nepal, losing that specific group?
It means you're losing your future engine for growth. These are often the educated ones, just starting careers or pursuing higher education. They're the most active, dynamic, potentially innovative segment of your population.
So the investment in their education just walks out the door.
Pretty much. It's a loss of future leaders, future innovators, the human capital you absolutely need for development and modernization.
Okay, so the numbers are stark, the demographics are concerning. Let's dig into the why. The sources suggest it's complex push factors from Nepal, pull factors from abroad, not just one simple thing.
Definitely not. It's rarely just one reason. It's usually a mix of pressures at home and strong attractions elsewhere. And economic reasons are, well, a major driver.
I bet. High youth unemployment must be a big push.
It is. Around 20.8% in 2024. But even if you have a job, the issue is often low pay and limited career progression compared to what's possible overseas. The sources give some really stark examples.
Like what?
Average monthly salary in Kathmandu is cited around $222. Compare that to Sydney, maybe $3,700.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's not just a gap, that's a different world.
Exactly. And then you add general economic instability, a lack of really good quality jobs, limited support if you want to start your own business in Nepal. Those are powerful pushes.
And pull is the opposite.
Mirror image. High demand for skilled workers abroad. Much, much higher salaries. They mention IT folks or engineers potentially making 85K, 100K a year in Australia. Clear career paths, stable economies.
Makes sense. And beyond money, education is clearly a massive factor for the students leaving.
Oh, absolutely. There's a strong perception, right or wrong, that higher education quality in Nepal isn't quite there. Issues like outdated courses, not enough practical training, limited choices, universities lacking resources. That's what the sources point to.
So the pull is the reputation of foreign universities.
Yeah, foreign degrees are often seen as more prestigious. They offer access to, cutting-edge stuff, modern research, and critically better global career options afterwards. For many young Nepalese, studying abroad isn't just about the diploma. It's a stepping stone to a future they feel isn't available at home.
It's not only about jobs and school, though, is it? The sources also talk about socio-political stuff, quality of life overall.
These are really important, maybe harder to measure, but deeply felt. Things like long-term political instability, weak governance. It creates uncertainty,
And corruption, nepotism.
Huge factors, yes. They're mentioned as major demotivators, especially for young people who want to succeed based on merit. Plus, there's just a basic desire for a better quality of life, reliable infrastructure, decent health care, maybe a safer, cleaner environment.
And the pull from other countries is stability, rule of law, feeling like it's a fairer system.
That's a big part of it. Plus, higher standards of living, often better environments for research or starting a business, multicultural societies. It all adds to the appeal.
So it feels like all these issues at home kind of feed into each other, making leaving look like the best, maybe only option for a better life overall.
That's really the core message from these sources, yeah. It's this complex interaction. Poor education hurts job prospects. Political instability hinders investment, which means fewer jobs and less funding for education. Corruption kills motivation. So migration starts to look like a way out, a way to access a system that just works better, not just economically, but in terms of fairness, stability, quality of life.
Okay, that makes the why clearer.
Yeah.
Now, the impact on Nepal, the sources call it the echo of the drain. What does that mean in practice?
It's a good phrase. It means the negative effects ripple through the country. Losing all these skilled young people creates serious shortages in key sectors, and that holds back development.
Healthcare must be one of the first places you see it.
Definitely. Critically hit. There's a severe lack of doctors and nurses, especially outside the main cities in rural areas. The overall doctor-patient ratio isn't great, maybe 1 to 1,700, but rurally, it can be 1 to 150,000. That's dire.
And the nursing shortage.
Estimated at 15,000 now, but they think they'll need over 80,000 by 2030.
And the reasons they leave are the same push-pull factors. Low pay, bad conditions.
Pretty much. Salaries are incredibly low compared to abroad, like $4,300 a year average for a doctor in Nepal versus maybe $63,000 for a U.S. resident. Job dissatisfaction is reported as really high, over 83% of doctors in one study. Poor conditions, instability.
And the result is?
Few health services, lower quality care, especially for people in remote, vulnerable areas. It's a direct hit to public health.
What about IT? That's meant to be a growing, promising sector for Nepal.
It has grown, yeah.
Yeah.
Exports hit over $500 million in 2022, ambitious targets. But it's facing a major bottleneck. A shortage of skilled people, developers, engineers.
Because they're leaving.
Exactly. Drawn by better pay, clearer career paths, access to newer tech elsewhere. And this shortage, it slows down digitalization within Nepal itself. It reduces the potential for innovation, makes local IT companies less competitive globally.
Engineering must be similar, affecting things like infrastructure projects.
It is. Lack of engineers means delays on crucial projects, more reliance on foreign experts. And the sources even mention that engineers who return with skills sometimes struggle to find projects or an environment where they can really use their advanced expertise.
And agriculture.
Yeah,
Still the backbone for so many people.
profoundly affected. When young people leave rural areas, who's left to farm the land?
Right.
A significant chunk of farmland, maybe 20% according to one source, is underused or just abandoned. This puts a huge burden on women and older people who stay behind, and it's a long-term threat to food security. Migration apparently increases the chance of land being left fallow by quite a bit, 16–24%.
So it's not just impacting individual sectors in isolation, it's more systemic.
Absolutely. It's a huge loss of human capital. Investments made in education don't fully pay off domestically. Overall productivity dips, innovation capacity is weakened. Even growth areas like hydropower or tourism are held back, partly because of the skill shortage, combined with a difficult investment climate. There's this cascading negative effect the sources talk about.
How so?
Well, shortages in one area, say IT or engineering, hold back others, like using technology to improve healthcare or agriculture or building the infrastructure needed for tourism. It all connects.
Okay, we've laid out the problems caused by the drain. Let's switch gears slightly to remittances. This is obviously massive for Nepal's economy.
Oh, absolutely critical. Nepal is one of the world's most remittance-dependent nations. We're talking almost 27% of GDP in 2023, might be sixth globally.
And the amount of money is huge.
Immense. 1.19 trillion Nepalese rupees just in the first 9 months of FY 24-25. That's nearly $9 billion US.
It must be a lifeline for countless families.
Undeniably, it plays a massive role in reducing poverty, improving living standards. For over 3/4 of households, remittances were the main income source in 2022-23. It pays for food, school fees, healthcare, basic needs. It's a vital social safety net.
But the sources ask this interesting question. Is it a life buoy keeping things afloat, or an anchor holding back deeper change? What's the downside?
The main issue highlighted is how that money gets used. Most of it goes on consumption daily needs, maybe fixing up the house. Very little gets channeled into productive investments.
Like starting businesses or modernizing farms.
Exactly. So it doesn't really fuel long-term sustainable growth for the economy as a whole. It keeps people going, but doesn't necessarily build a stronger economic base.
And there are other risks.
Yeah, there's the Dutch disease risk. That huge inflow of foreign cash can strengthen the local currency, which sounds good, but it can make Nepal's own exports more expensive and imports cheaper, potentially hurting local industries.
Plus, the dependence itself is risky.
Very risky. The whole economy becomes vulnerable to things happening elsewhere, a recession in the Gulf, say, or changes in visa rules in Europe. It can also subtly reduce the motivation for people to work within Nepal, especially in tough jobs like farming, making labor shortages worse. And sometimes there are issues with financial literacy or just a lack of good, safe ways for people to invest that money effectively.
So it creates this cycle. Brain drain leads to remittances, which support families but don't fix the underlying economic issues, which means opportunities are still lacking, which drives more migration.
That's the potential vicious circle the sources describe. Relying so heavily on remittances might inadvertently mask the deep structural problems, the weak job market, the governance issues, the education gaps, and maybe delay the tough reforms needed to make staying in Nepal more attractive.
It's a really difficult dynamic. Okay, let's pivot towards solutions now. What can companies within Nepal actually do to try and keep their talent, this war for talent idea?
Right. Companies can't just wait for the government. They need their own strategies. It has to be about retention, not just hiring. And the foundation really is competitive pay and benefits.
Seems basic, but essential.
Absolutely. Fair salaries that match the market and the skills, plus decent benefits, health insurance, paid leave, bonuses, maybe help with transport or food, retirement plans. These are becoming basic expectations.
But money isn't everything, right? Especially for ambitious young people.
Not at all. Opportunities for growth, for professional development, these are huge. Companies that invest in training, advanced courses, certifications, that have mentoring programs, clear career paths, they're showing employees there's a future with them.
And the workplace atmosphere itself.
Crucial. The sources emphasize creating a positive, supportive work culture. That means trust, respect, open communication, teamwork. Recognizing people's work, promoting a decent work-life balance. Think flexible hours, maybe remote options, respecting holidays. Ethical practices, fairness, making employees feel valued and involved.
Are there Nepalese companies doing this well? The sources mentioned a couple.
Yeah, they highlighted F1 Soft and Fuse machines as examples. F1 Soft was noted for focusing on innovation, being flexible, having a learning culture, supporting work-life balance, offering career growth.
And Fuse machines,
They're in AI, and they
right?
seem really focused on developing talent. They have scholarship programs, mentoring, trying to build an environment where people can innovate. It shows it is possible to create attractive workplaces in Nepal.
And keeping good people isn't just about avoiding costs, it helps attract new talent, too.
Definitely. Lower turnover saves money, obviously, but it also makes you look like a good place to work, build your employer brand. In a place like Nepal, where word of mouth is strong, having happy employees who stay is a massive recruitment advantage. Investing in retention helps attraction.
Okay, so that's what companies can try to do. What about the bigger picture? National policies, government initiatives. What's being done to make Nepal itself more appealing?
Well, the government has rolled out various programs, though the sources do raise questions about how effective they've been in practice. On youth employment, there's the Prime Minister's Employment Program, the PMEP.
Right, but didn't the sources say there were some issues there?
Yeah, concerns about it not always reaching the neediest, the actual employment duration being shorter than planned, maybe some political interference affecting implementation. So the intent might be good, but execution challenges seem to exist.
Any newer initiatives?
There's a youth startup program aiming to boost domestic job creation, especially for Gen Z. And a longer-term plan, a decade of promoting domestic employment from 2025 to 2035, aiming to eventually end forced labor migration.
And supporting startups seems key for creating those new, modern jobs.
It is. There's a national startup policy from 2024 trying to attract investment, including from the diaspora, the NRNs, and setting up a startup fund. They've defined what a startup is, and there's a loan program offering cheap credit.
How's that loan program doing?
The numbers suggest maybe some initial bottlenecks, over 5,000 applications in the first year, but only 165 funded. Could be the process, the criteria, maybe just not enough funds for the demand. But they do offer tax breaks, too, like a 5-year income tax holiday for startups.
And what about fixing the education system, which seems like a major push factor?
That's definitely acknowledged as a problem. The government recognizes issues with quality, relevance, not producing graduates for key sectors like IT or energy. Proposed reforms include things like an independent quality assurance body, reviewing curricula to focus more on practical skills and market needs, maybe linking university funding to performance. There's also a bill for school education reform.
And engaging the diaspora, the non-resident Nepalese.
Efforts there, too. There's been an NRN Act since 2008 trying to encourage them to invest and participate back home. The idea isn't just to get their money, but also their expertise, their experience, what they call brain circulation, making it easier for them to buy land, invest in businesses, bring back capital.
So it seems like a lot of policies exist, at least on paper.
Yes, but that's the recurring theme in the sources, the gap between policy and practice. Bureaucracy, lack of coordination between agencies, not enough resources, sometimes political issues getting in the way. These things often weaken the impact of well-intentioned initiatives.
So implementation is key.
Absolutely critical. Success hinges on transparent, accountable, efficient implementation. And of course, underlying political stability and consistency really help.
Okay, let's try to pull this all together.
Yeah.
What's the final picture these sources paint of Nepal's brain drain challenge?
It's a really critical situation. You have this complex mix of economic, educational, and socio-political factors pushing out a huge number of young, skilled people. This outflow then severely damages key sectors needed for development.
And remittances help individuals, but might mask the deeper problems.
Exactly. They provide a crucial cushion, but risk creating dependence and might not be driving the kind of structural change needed to break the cycle.
It's a symptom of those bigger underlying issues: economy, education, governance.
Precisely. But, and this is important, the sources also point to this window of opportunity. Nepal has a young population, its demographic dividend, potentially lasting until around 2047. That youth bulge is a massive potential asset.
If it can be harnessed at home.
Right. Urgent, decisive, comprehensive action is needed to harness that energy for national development, rather than losing it abroad.
So what are the absolute key areas for action that emerge from this material?
Several core things stand out. 1. Creating real economic opportunities and quality jobs inside Nepal. That means supporting the private sector, investing smartly, improving the whole business climate. 2. Seriously deepening education reforms, quality, practical skills, matching market needs. 3. Improving that investment climate, tackling corruption, ensuring stability, rule of law, making administration efficient. 4. Genuinely engaging the diaspora, their capital, yes, but also their knowledge and experience. And 5, developing a proper national strategy for talent retaining people, attracting people back, managing the country's human capital effectively.
It sounds like the fundamental shift needed isn't just about stopping people leaving, but about building a Nepal where talented people choose to stay or choose to return.
That's exactly it. You have to move beyond just treating the symptom, which is migration, and tackle the root causes, the lack of opportunity, the concerns about quality of life, the perceived lack of future prospects at home. And doing that, well, it requires everyone pulling together.
Government, private sector, academia, civil society.
Yeah, it has to be a collaborative national effort.
Well, this deep dive has certainly laid out the scale and complexity of the challenge, the data, the impacts. They're sobering.
They are. And it really leaves us and you, the listener, with a final crucial question to think about based on everything we've discussed. How can a country like Nepal realistically turn the skills, the experience, the capital its citizens gain abroad into real development and appealing opportunities back home? Moving beyond just depending on the remittance checks, what are those vital non-monetary things? Trust in the system, belief in fairness, everyday quality of life, a sense of purpose? What does it take to truly inspire talented Nepalis to invest their futures in their own homeland?